All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Business of Speaking show. I am your host, Tim McDonald, and today I am joined by somebody that I am so glad to have here, Jessica Miller-Merrell. How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here.
Oh, no, I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this. I know we've been connected online for years and years, and I believe we only got to meet in person once, but it was a great opportunity. Yeah, really, for those tuning in for the first time, the Business of Speaking show is really focusing on not what the speakers talk about on stage, but really how they got started in their journey to the stage and what they've learned along the way for people who are thinking about getting involved in speaking, just getting a speaking business launched, or as 2020 has taught us, no matter what we think we know as speakers, we don't know too much of anything, as the world has
Agreed.
taught us. So, with that being said, Jessica, I'd really love to dive in. Before we get back to the beginning stages of when you got started, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, how speaking plays a role in your business today.
So, I run a community called Workology. It's a human resources and recruiting online destination, and we provide resources, support, and a variety of different ways, mostly digital these days, to help human resources and HR recruiting professionals support their organizations and themselves as individuals, personally and professionally.
Well, that is fantastic. And I'm sure, and I know I met you because we were at a conference, and I believe you were involved in speaking at that, as I was. But tell us a little bit about, how does the speaking play a part in your business today?
So, speaking, whether in person or online, is really the cornerstone of my business, whether I'm training HR or recruiting professionals on the newest and latest like technologies, or connecting with people live on LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live in small groups. But I'm sharing resources and best practices and helping them become better HR and recruiting professionals. So without speaking, I would just be tweeting, and that's so 2010.
Well, you're aging us now because we're
Yes.
both OGs when it comes to
We
Twitter.
are.
Yeah, so tell us, how did this all start for you? When did you first get involved in speaking? Were you always running your own business or did you work for somebody else? And then how did that all evolve for you?
So I was a corporate HR professional and I started a blog in 2005. I was trying to recruit salespeople. So that's kind of how I got started, because I was looking for something different to connect to the sales professionals inside and outside that I was trying to hire at my company. And I wasn't a recruiter, I was an HR director that was responsible for a team of recruiters and HR professionals. So I was trying to figure out, like, how do I reach these people and scale? And while I started the blog, I was a member of Toastmasters and really wanted to find a way to connect with the community, but then also improve my speaking skills because they were really limited to workplace presentations, or if somebody from the corporate team asked me to talk during a board meeting, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that because I've heard so many other speakers talk about, the experience that they have where they didn't really consider it speaking, but it really was the foundation for the early days of their speaking. So I'm just kind of curious when you mentioned Toastmasters, and I know that, several people have mentioned that. What did that do that was different than the experience you were getting in the workplace in front of those, trainings or meetings that you were getting up and talking at?
It was an organized system or process, and I was connecting with different kinds of people. So it wasn't just me in human resources talking about, here's the book of the month, or here's the update on staffing levels for the division that I was responsible for. I was listening to other people talk about different topics, and then in Toastmasters, you get to speak on different topics yourself. So you make the presentation. It felt a lot like college speaking class or speech class, but it was more meaningful because it had a purpose. I was trying to be a better speaker, not necessarily to become a paid speaker, which that has, as a result of what, I mean, Toastmasters has led me to that place, but just be a better connector, either online or in person, with the power of speech.
And so when you've evolved through all this and, with being in the workplace, with being involved in Toastmasters, and then do you remember the first time somebody asked you, to speak and get paid, or were you always kind of, as soon as you went out there, asking to get paid to speak?
Um, so I want to talk first about maybe one of the first times that I got asked to speak as like an expert. And it was really the reason I got on Twitter actually in 2008. I was using social media to recruit, and I had started the blog, and people were starting to notice. And so somebody asked me to be on a panel, and the moderator was like, "Can you figure out this tweeter thing? Could you try it, because we want to talk about it?" And that's the whole reason I really started focusing on Twitter, was because that was what the panel asked me specifically to talk about. I was seeing success in recruiting on MySpace, if you remember MySpace, and forums, not necessarily Twitter, but that was the first real speaking opportunity that I felt like the Toastmasters work and kind of the blog and what I was doing was kind of all coming together. As far as my first paid event, it was for a government agency. They asked me to talk about how to use social media for recruiting. And I was really nervous. I probably negotiated very badly, but the presentation I thought went pretty good. I mean, they asked me to come back. And so I think a lot of speaking, especially when it's paid, is trial and error. But most importantly, you have to know your worth and understand when it is going to be discounted speaking, like for a nonprofit or something like that, or it might be an in-kind donation, or a paid opportunity for you. It kind of depends on where you think it's going to impact your business the most.
I'm so glad you brought those things up. There's so many different ways that we can look at, speaking and being a professional speaker, which obviously most people would think professional means you're getting paid, but there's other ways that you're getting value out of this. And can you just dive into a little bit of those, like that you just described, and how they, how you look at it, how you've processed that in your business?
So I feel like everything I have to, every time I get a speaking opportunity, and when I think of speaking opportunities, it can be as simple as going live on Facebook, right? Where you're talking about a topic. Live streaming has really changed the game. I know we're streaming live right now. It allows you access to a much larger community, or a targeted community that you didn't have before, when, we were all on our phones and our Blackberries tweeting away. So, you have to decide in each instance, like what the overall goal is. For me, if I'm being asked to maybe keynote a conference, then yes, it's a paid opportunity, unless there's some sort of partnership or relationship happening. I'm keynoting here in Austin in a few weeks, the ATD conference, is Training and Development Conference here in Austin. We're focusing on live speaking, how to make that happen using the internet. I also think you need to think about the relationships and partnerships that you build, because they lend to other opportunities. For example, we kind of kicked this off and said we've met in person once, but we have been social media friends and connected for over 10 years. So you and I have followed each other and had a relationship, and who knows where this opportunity to speak from your show, how we might partner together in the future. So I'm not saying every opportunity should be unpaid, but I think that you should think about the bigger picture and how it might be able to help you. Anytime I podcast, I also looked at as an opportunity to drive people to my community, share with them what I know, and then talk about the products and services that I have available. That's one thing I think people don't do enough of when they speak, and it's something that I've been working on, is talk about, here's a product or service, and ask people, invite them to come to your community and or buy or learn more about your service. Otherwise, you're just sending goodwill, and goodwill doesn't pay the bills.
That's so true. I've been learning that lesson myself here, and continue to learn it. Um, you know, you mentioned something, and I know you're mentioning the early days, and even going back to MySpace, and starting blogging in 2005, and I mean today people are kind of oh, blog, and but I mean it's still so relevant. But now you're mentioning podcasts, you're mentioning getting on shows like this, looking at events or conferences that you can go to that provide that opportunity. These are all marketing opportunities, right? And how do you, how did you learn that this was something that was working for you, and that you knew that it was something that you want to do? Because it does, marketing like this takes a lot of your time, and it's a big commitment. So how did you kind of realize that this was for you and going to work?
I think for me, I would say focus on your wheelhouse. Don't take every speaking opportunity. For example, I think I've been podcasting for 6 years, which is a while in the podcasting world. And I think I've done one presentation on podcasting, like how to do it. It's not something like I can talk about it, but it's not in my core offering for the products and services and the audience that I reach. Now, if I decided to launch a podcast or a course on how to make a podcast, then yes, I would be speaking about podcasting all over the place. So find those places where you can really talk about what your area of expertise is, whatever product or service that you sell is, and don't say yes to every single thing. So if somebody came to me today and said, Jessica, I want to talk about, like, could you talk about podcasts and how to do them? I would probably say, I probably don't have anything on the schedule until November or after Thanksgiving. Or here's a friend of mine who's really awesome that does this that you should connect with. And so now I am expanding my network of influence and building relationships even further while managing my time. Because honestly, I think about, okay, I don't have a course to sell. I'm just going to be talking about podcasting. At the end of the day, like, how much is my time worth? If it's going to take me 3 hours to make the presentation and then 1 hour to present, that's 4 hours of my time. What is that in a dollar value? And do I think I'm going to get that back in the next, I would say 12 to 24 months from that opportunity? And if the answer is no, then you make the recommendation. If the answer is yes, then more power to you. But I think that's the biggest mistake that new speakers make, is they try to do all the things. So focus on what you're really good at, the area that either everybody's asking you about or is your business, and speak on those subjects.
I love the fact that you mentioned about referring out to somebody else and kind of building that relationship through that method. Uh, Outside of Toastmasters, which I know you said was a great resource for you early on, has there been other people that you've connected with that have really helped you in the speaking business and getting opportunities in, with them giving to you as much as you giving to them?
I'm sure that you probably had other guests talk about the National Speakers Association. I have been a member briefly. It really wasn't for me, just because of the amount of time that it was taking. But I did find a number of people who are speakers like me in different areas, that I kind of connected with on a friend level and kind of a peer level, where we've been able to talk openly and candidly about what's working and what's not working. The other thing that I've done has been doubling down on live video, which I'm so glad, especially considering what has occurred in the last 12 or 6 months, 7 months for us, is I really focused on building revenue streams online and through on-demand courses and content and membership communities also. So the last year and a half, I've focused a lot on live video, getting better at live video, practicing, talking with others. I've done the podcast, but live video is different. So that has been incredibly helpful, because now if the media calls, boom, I can get online and I can talk about a subject very quickly, and I have kind of the sound bites, and I'm prepared on the fly. That has been incredibly helpful for me too.
So and obviously, I've been doing live video for
Yeah,
probably 11 years, I guess
a long
now.
time.
But when you are looking at making the transition from a voice environment to a video environment, what are some of the unique challenges and things that people need to be aware of?
Lighting. I think that's the biggest challenge. I have a ring light in front of me, and then I have other studio lights. I don't have them on right now, but when I'm filming YouTube stuff for myself, we will have a variety of lighting. So you want to think about your background lighting, a quiet set, a good microphone. Those are really important, and they can set you apart from others. For women, it's incredibly important to make sure you have a colorful shirt on, have some makeup on, look, young and refreshed. The lighting's going to help with that too. So that's fantastic. But those are kind of the fundamentals. I think once anybody can start. Again, live video is amazing because anybody can do it, but it also means everybody can do it, and then you can really stand out from the pack that you're different or better or well versed at this live video thing. So popping up your camera or your phone, looking straight into the camera versus down here where your eye kind of wanders, and just try to start talking and create a connection.
And that connection, I know when you're up on stage or in front of a room of people, it's so easy because you can read their body language, you can see, and interact with them. How do you create that through a camera?
Through asking questions, through moving your hands and kind of being a little crazy. I mean, with videos, live video in particular, sometimes you have to amp up kind of the emotions and the facial expressions so that it can come through to the other people who are watching. I also like to ask questions and seek engagement. So if people go crazy over one part of my presentation, even if it's just an ad lib or something they threw together on a Facebook Live in a group, that says to me, I need to rethink this and maybe expand on this topic. And that might be next week's topic, or a YouTube video, or a new presentation that I'm going to be giving where I'm offering people a chance to buy a course or something that I am selling. So video is awesome. Live video is awesome because you can test your market to understand what resonates with them. One of the courses that we sell is for HR certification. So HR professionals take an exam, kind of like the bar exam, but for HR. And so I have a free group with about 4,000 people, and I go live 2 or 3 times a week over there. And sometimes it's just random. Sometimes it's planned. We have a push for some marketing, or I'm answering a question. But a lot of times it's just me throwing something out there just to test the market and see, is this going to resonate with people? And really, live video allows you to do that. So you can ask questions, and then you have great market research for your paid presentation or your new webinar or whatever you're going to be speaking at.
Well, I love that. Well, I know we're kind of getting close to the end here. So one of the things I love asking my guest is, if you were to go back knowing what you know now to when you first started your business, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Niche. In the beginning, I got lots of activity from social media work and career consulting, and my passion, my love is human resources and recruiting, that community of people. So I wasted a lot of time and had a lot of conversations with people doing social media consulting and other things that weren't really what I loved. I think it was confusing to my customers or my community sometimes. What exactly does she do? But now it's very clear. I help the human resources and recruiting community, and we provide resources for them to be very successful. It's scary to niche and to be really specific, because it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out on all these other opportunities. But the reality is that you spend a lot more time inventing new processes and doing all these new things because you're so broad. So if I could go back, I would just say, hey, Jessica, focus on HR. That's what you're good at. That's what you know, and just get out there and do your thing.
I think that is one of the best ways to kind of wrap things up here. So great advice. Jessica, how can people learn more about you, connect with you online?
So our community is called Workology. So you can go to workology.com, and we have over 8,000 articles and courses for HR and recruiting professionals. You can simply, when you get to the website, go to the Facebook chat that's there in Messenger. That's going to be me or somebody on my team, and it's a great way to connect with me. You can also email me at help@workology.com, and then I'll be able to answer questions or talk more about human resources.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica. And thank you for watching. And if you are watching for the first time on YouTube, this is the part of the show where we are going to sign off of YouTube. However, Jessica agreed to stay on with me, and I get to ask her one additional question. And that question is only going to be available to our email subscribers. So if you head over to speaking.business and just sign up for free for our email list, it's a weekly email that comes out. You will get the exclusive content and the answer to the question that I am going to ask Jessica right after we sign off here. So thank you so much for watching.